What's going on, you guys? I am coming to you on a Monday night as Monday Night Football is winding down right now with the 49ers leading the Colts 41-27. We're going to talk about the state of the Minnesota Vikings after their win against the New York Giants 16-13. This was the most feels like a loss win that I have witnessed in a while as a Vikings fan, mostly because it felt like a loss at halftime as soon as JJ McCarthy was not coming back onto the field. At this point, all I care about is seeing how JJ McCarthy is playing, how he's going to play, and what we have in the kid going into next season. I'll tell you what, by halftime, pretty much, I felt good about what we had. It was the start or half, I guess, of a third straight game where I felt like this guy looks and feels like a quarterback I can trust to play good football. But the problem is, I don't know that I can trust him to stay healthy to play good football because he has a wrist injury that I do not know the news yet. By the time this comes out, maybe it's out there. I'm praying to the Christmas gods that he will be able to play on Christmas Day. But as a realist, I can tell you right now, I do not think that there's a chance that he's going to be the starting quarterback for Week 17 when the Vikings take on the Lions on Christmas Day at home. And that is a problem because he keeps missing games. The meniscus injury, I will redshirt year, whatever. The Vikings were already pretty much, I think, hoping that was going to be a development year for him where he ran the scout team and he sat behind Darnold. Then this year, you have the ankle injury. All right, well, it's an ankle injury, but it became a 6-week injury. It wasn't like a week-to-week thing. 6 weeks missed because of that. Then he has a concussion. He had a wrist thing that they kind of hid and put a pad on. Now it's a wrist or hand injury again to his throwing hand. So I hate to hold that against him, especially because it's not something where you feel like, all right, he's not – prepping his body enough. Like if it's hamstring injuries or like a soft tissue injury or whatever, an oblique injury, maybe he's not doing the right exercises or whatnot. But it's just hard because we're running out of time here. And let me just say this, frankly. I don't feel or think that we're running out of time with JJ McCarthy. But I think and feel that the front office and Kevin O'Connell feel like they're running out of time. If you ask me, next year, 100%, I'm starting the season with J.J. McCarthy as my starting quarterback. But I don't know that the front office and that Kevin O'Connell feel like that is an answer that you could give a fan base that is expecting you at that point, going into their 6th season, to win a playoff game at the very least, right? And you can't put all your eggs into a kid that's been injured this much basket. And so I think that's a big issue looming for the Vikings. What I want them to do is to just stick with the kid. I mean, listen, last year, put that to the side. He was going to run the scout team. So let's just say last year's a redshirt year. This year, essentially, is his rookie year. And people are comparing him to guys like Drake May and Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels, people like guys that played a full season already. So I get it. It's his draft class, but he doesn't have those reps that they had. In fact, he has way less than that too, even if they were on the same timeline and played the same amount of NFL games because he's younger. But whatever, forget the college stuff. I'm just saying, Caleb, Drake May, these guys have like 30 NFL starts. McCarthy just had his 9th NFL start. So to me, I'm like, why aren't we comparing him to other guys that have 9 NFL starts and are arguably, I mean, they are his age, essentially. I don't know how old Cam Ward is. I'll look it up right now. But Cam Ward's 23 years old. JJ McCarthy is 22 years old. So why aren't we comparing him to Cam Ward from this year's draft? Like those guys. And if you do that and you watch the games, you'd be like, damn, the Vikings got a good one. By next year, he'll probably be really good. And that's how I feel about JJ McCarthy. But again, that's the fear. I think Kevin O'Connell and the Vikings, just front office, whatever you want to phrase it, botched this from the beginning. They, didn't play him enough in the preseason. If they were so worried about mechanics and footwork, they didn't want to dumb down their playbook and their play calling and how a quarterback's going to read the defense, whether that's going from reading defenses to just saying, okay, we're going to run a pure progression offense, which they decided to do. And Kevin O'Connell seemed very unhappy about doing so right before the Commanders game, which is when J.J. McCarthy started to play better football. And the evidence of that is that you have Max Brosmer come in relief of McCarthy against the Giants, and he looked night and day different from when he looked like in Seattle, which was, again, before that Commanders game, when I think Kevin O'Connell was telling his young quarterbacks, this is the offense you got to figure out how to play, okay? I'm not switching up. You got to do this, and you got to read the defense, and this, you better catch up, is how I feel like he was coaching these young guys, McCarthy and Brosmer. And I think after the Packers game, he was like, okay, damn, they ain't going to catch up. I got to now make some effort to go to their side of the bridge and help them. And he finally did that, and they started playing better. And it's not just McCarthy. So that's why I just feel like KOC kind of messed us up. And I've been, haven't kept that secret. I've been saying that on my podcast, that I think he's kind of been the main one to blame for the quarterback play this season. And at the same time, hey, he's made some changes. And suddenly, those young guys, including Brosmer, are playing much better football. And maybe the growth there isn't in the young QBs, but maybe the growth is Kevin O'Connell not being as stubborn and expecting his young 22-year-old quarterback to come in and play a system that was played well by a 15-year vet in Matthew Stafford, or a 10-plus year vet in Kirk Cousins, or a 7 years of experience guy in Sam Darnold. Maybe you should have adjusted to help rookie quarterbacks. And I think he learned that a little too late, which is why they're not playing for anything meaningful now. But maybe that's the growth actually that makes a difference. Jackson Dart was a first-round pick too this year. How old is he? Jackson Dart. He's 22 years old also. How did he play? 7 for 13, 33 yards and a pick. So when you compare McCarthy to these guys that are his age and have his amount of start experience, because Jackson Dart has played, let's see, his splits, his game logs, that's what we're looking for. I mean, he started in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 games. So Jackson Dart's got 3 more starts than J.J. McCarthy. And if you had this kind of performance from J.J. McCarthy, if you had a 7 for 13, 33 yards passing game from J.J. McCarthy, you're telling me the national media wouldn't be telling the Vikings next year, you cannot start with him? Why are they saying that about the Giants? I'm not saying that the Giants should move off of Dart, but I'm saying this idea that McCarthy gets his 8 or 10 starts this season and that's it. We're moving on. We're going to go to a different quarterback. That's a joke. I mean, that's not how you develop a quarterback. So again, I hope they stick with McCarthy. I like what I've seen from him. I don't think when he was struggling, it was all on him. I mean, his last 3 games, ever since they made that change that Kevin O'Connell was so unhappy about, Washington, 16 for 23, 163, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Dallas, 15 for 24, 250, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. Giants, 9 for 14, a pick, which was off of a dropped pass by Jalen Naylor, by the way. And which, again, Jefferson also had a drop this game. And let's not forget the Jordan Addison dropped touchdown in this game. So just those 3, which should have been catches by your elite wide receiver core, those numbers would be 12 for 14, a touchdown, 0 interceptions, and looking at about 150 yards in a half, by the way, because he didn't play the second half. So, look, again, I mean, the completion percentage in the last 3 games is 69, 62.5, 64. That's competent quarterback play. And the week before at Green Bay, he didn't look good, but even his completion percentage there was 63%. I don't, it's tough to, figure this out, I guess, especially when he's going to be missing games. But I just don't think McCarthy's been really the problem if your expectation wasn't he's going to come in and be a 10-year vet quarterback, which if you thought that, then you just weren't thinking straight. So again, state of the Vikings at this point, if he doesn't start, which I said, like I said, I don't think he's starting. Brosmer's starting probably on Christmas, which sucks because at this point, the wins are great, but realistically, the wins are good for the locker room and you feel good for these guys. And look, like a perfect example is I feel great for Aaron Jones. I love that guy. He seems like the best teammate, but he ain't going to be on the team next year. So do I care about him and his leadership and how that's going to translate as winning these last two games and the camaraderie? No, I don't, because I don't think he's going to be back. So like, yes, obviously part of me wants that for him as a person that I root for. But do I think those two wins, if they win out the last two games of the year, is going to make a difference as far as like wins and losses next year? No, I do not. But I think if they can get a fourth place schedule as opposed to a third place schedule, or if they can get the 8th pick in the draft instead of the 15th pick in the draft, do I think that's going to matter in wins and losses? Absolutely. So yeah, I kind of don't want them to win if McCarthy's not starting. Now, if McCarthy's starting, the reason why I think that matters and why now I would be rooting for them to win the games that he starts is because, one, it means he plays well. So it means that his confidence is growing. And hopefully, like I said, what I want the team to do is to stick with him next year. So it would, kind of incline the team to stick with him next year. But also the guys that are going to be around next year, the Justin Jeffersons of the world, and those kind of guys, it makes those guys also believe in JJ McCarthy. So if they went out these next two games, I guess it's good to believe in Max Brosmer if he plays well, because in case next year you need your backup quarterback to play. But realistically, I mean, if you're on your backup quarterback and then at that point, like, you're already going to be at a disadvantage. That's not what you're going into the year hoping. You're hoping that your backup quarterback never plays. So, and we don't have aspirations or think Max Brosmer is going to be QB1. If you go into next year with Max Brosmer as QB1, that's a problem, even if he lights it up these next two games. So again, the state of the Vikings is they get a nice win in New York, but McCarthy gets hurt, and we'll see what the news is. Again, I'll keep my eye out. By the time this comes out, you'll probably have the news. I don't know. I think he's done for the year. The x-rays are usually done rather quick. So I think if it was just a matter of like, let's do the x-ray and see if he's good to play in the second half, even if he missed that first possession for the offense, by the time the x-rays come back negative, he's back in there. But clearly he was in pain. He couldn't grip the football. And that too, the mistake, by the way, more credit to McCarthy. The mistake that he made on that fumble to end the half, you could see it in the replay. He was trying to dirt the football. And if he didn't dirt it because he couldn't get a grip of it, look, mentally, he was doing what he needed to do. He didn't throw it because Abdul Carter was waiting for that screen. And he did the right thing. But obviously, if he can't grip it because he's injured, well, that's what happened. And yeah, on the stat sheet or whatever, it's going to be a sack and a fumble and a touchdown for the Giants, and that's fine. But the stats don't show you everything. The stats show you that he went 9 for 14 and had a pick. But if you watch the game, he should have at minimum been 12 for 14 with a touchdown and no picks in a half. So anyway, guys, my camera over here has hit its time for recording. So I will end this here, and I will talk to you guys soon.